support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the track.
Avenelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Avenelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Podcast. The Boro Podcast that gives you all of your Boro matchday chatter in a podcast. And well, Middlesbrough have recorded back-to-back wins for the first time since November to see us go to, well, a place I don't even want to mention, and two, we're not even in the playoffs anyway, so there's no point even mentioning it, but we did beat Stoke City under Mark Robbins, which included Johansson and Sam Gallagher, so I feel like it was the holy trinity of Boro curses, and also we beat bottom of the league, Derby County, which I don't mind saying at all. But before we go into our key takeouts, I just want to quickly mention to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Boro Breakdown channel as well. That helps us get found, charted, and all that kind of fun stuff. And we are very, very close to 500 5-star reviews on Spotify. And now we have thousands of followers on Spotify. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Guys, if you haven't given us a 5-star rating, give us a 5-star rating. Be pretty cool to hit 500 500 reviews. Nearly got that out of my mouth. But guys, one key takeout as always, because back-to-back wins, we're very, very happy with that, of course. But Dynamo, what is your one key takeout from the week?
Probably that I'm going to heed caution with this week's results. Obviously, 2 good wins that in isolation, really happy with. Good to stop the rot. I think during that period of 5 defeats, all I ever wanted was for Michael Carrick to turn things around. But bigger picture, I don't know if I can say definitively that we have turned things around, that we have fully turned a corner. I think we could be turning a corner, but I just don't trust this Middlesbrough team still. And is it unjust to want more from Boro to be convinced by them? I don't think so, because ultimately this season it's been plagued by the wrong sort of consistency. We have struggled to build up any sort of momentum since November, actually. So it's a big test now for Boro. Can you keep backing it up? Good that we won at the weekend after having won midweek, because that's one of the bugbears of mine, that we don't get to talk about back-to-back victories on the podcast because we usually win midweek and lose at the weekend. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, can we kick on now? Can we push on? Is this Middlesbrough fully back in and amongst the playoff race? We will see.
Yeah, we will see. And lovely reference to Base Hunter there as well as saying all you ever wanted. And Tom,
God's sake.
Now that you've gone, Tom, to the game on Saturday, are you happy with the win, of course? And what's your one key take-up from the week?
Obviously, really happy with the win, and happy with both wins this week. It was definitely needed. I think, especially after everyone's kind of feelings last weekend. Hopefully, it is a sign that we're turning, or at least it's going to say. I don't even think confidence was an issue before, but it might just kind of breed that bit of a winning mentality. I'm saying confidence wasn't an issue before because I've never kind of seen it within the matches. If anything, players look too confident at times, kind of misplacing passes and stuff. But like I did notice yesterday, the passing was a lot crisper, and maybe this couple of wins was what we needed to kind of begin turning the corner. And then we do have some winnable games coming up. So if we can carry on playing the kind of same way we are and making improvements, maybe we can kind of get fully back on the right track with those games as well. But it is a promising start for that, I think.
Yeah, and to round us off, we'll probably say 2 big wins, but we've got to keep going now. And that old cliche of one game at a time, it is kind of one game at a time with Middlesbrough, isn't it? Because we don't really know which team's going to show up. And when they do show up, they're very good. And when they don't show up, they're very bad. But let's kick on now. We've got some really good fixtures. Swansea is obviously a tough one, of course, but we have to go there and try and get a result. Like, and that's kind of it. But we're in a position now where they've run out of opportunities to drop points because they've went on this horrendous streak. They're in a position now where they just have to keep on winning and be relentless. And I liked what I see in the last couple of games where there's a bit of shithousery, there's a bit of arrogance, there's a bit of assertiveness in Boro's play, there's a bit of horribleness. And that's what I wanted to see. You know, Boro have been a side where they've just been a bit too nice at times. But I want us to be horrible to play against, just not just because we're a good footballing side, because we're a very good footballing side, but we do miss those dark arts. And I liked what I seen. And there was quite a funny clip yesterday where Tommy Conway just pushed the Ambe over, and I just thought it was really funny. It was completely relevant, nothing really happened, but he did it anyway. And that's what I want to see. And he did it with a celebration against Bristol City, of course. Appreciate backfire on him. But I want to see more of it. Just be horrible. Be assertive, be aggressive, and just go on to that next game and try and win your football match. But let's start off with the Stoke game, because when we play Mark Robins, we're normally talking about a defeat. But this time, guys, we are talking about a win. The curse has been lifted. Ring the bells, because it's something I never thought I'd ever see. I thought it was finally over. But a 3-1 win, courtesy of Tommy Conway. He could have scored 2, really. Finn Azaz, and it was a lovely goal from Finn Azaz as well. And I nearly forgot the goal scorer as well. It just, honestly, my brain has just been mush all week, but I'll come out a little bit later on. But Dermal, assessment of the game.
I really enjoyed our performance in it, actually. I thought we played some really slick football. The combinations just seemed way better, actually. We moved the ball a lot quicker and we were exploiting a lot of the space from Stoke. A lot of people will mention that Stoke were awful, and Stoke fans will say that themselves. But after the run that we've been on, after the match, I was just thinking, right, I don't really care about the level of the opposition. I'm just happy that I've seen a good Boro performance, which has actually been rare to come by in 2025 so far, and a good result, because that was a big game for Michael Carrick. It was a big game for those players too, and they showed how good they can be. It was a little reminder that we can play some really good football and we can be efficient. I must admit though, when Tommy Conway missed, the tide seemed to turn in Stoke's favour, and I was like, I really hope that we aren't left to rue that chance. And then Bay scored and equalised. I kind of thought, here we go again. This Middlesbrough team are really, they're struggling to close the door on the opposition. They're keeping it slightly ajar, and Stoke are going to walk through it. And to be fair, yeah, they equalised, and I thought that they were probably going to kick on from there. But fair play to Boro, they managed to wrestle back the momentum, and they got their moment in the second half. A wonderful finish from Finn Azaz, who after yesterday's game against Derby is now on 10 goals and 10 assists, which, I mean, can we talk about that for a second? Because that is brilliant to have a player like him in our ranks that can get you assists, which of course is also to do with his teammates, but 10 goals as well, double figures, back-to-back seasons. He's such an important player, and I was really glad in that Stoke game that we saw the good Finn Azaz back, because we have needed him, and he does very well when he's in spaces, playing on that left-hand side. It was a different look Middlesbrough front four, and I actually really liked it. We just played some good stuff, and it was just, as I said, a little reminder that this Middlesbrough team can play good football. So it was a good win, and I was really happy with it. And maybe after all, it wasn't Matt Robbins that was the problem. Maybe it is just Coventry, but we will see at the end of the season, the final game of the season, whether we can banish the Coventry hoodoo as well.
Yeah, TBC. But on Finn Azaz, yeah, back-to-back seasons, Dana, with hitting double-double, and it just shows his creativeness. And to do it at a side like Plymouth, and then to do it here, I think that's a fantastic omen. And we only paid, £2 million for him, and to get that output, I think is fantastic for the football club. And, he's a player that you could probably sell on. And it sounds really sad to say that, to be honest, but he's a player who I think is gifted, but has been in a really bad run of form. I said on the last podcast that I was on that I said something on this podcast to say, watch Finn Azaz and you'll really appreciate him. And then he turned to shit. But if you watched him yesterday, I think you would have been really pleased with how his output really benefited Boro in getting him to really good areas. And also shout out to Morgan Baker as well. I thought him and Finn Azaz, that connection from Plymouth, bringing it into Middlesbrough, that is slowly but surely starting to work for Boro. But on the
Yeah,
game,
agree.
Against Stoke, I didn't mention Marcus Forss because he was the Boro's first goal scorer, and what a return to goal scoring form, because it was nearly a year that he actually found back of the net. And how good was it, firstly, I think, to see Marcus Forss in a Boro shirt and starting again and being part of something. You alluded to that front four as well, but on top of that as well, the finish from Marcus Forss really is one of the best finishes in the club. And pardon the pun there,
Dawn.
finish. No,
Dawn.
I'm going to finish
God's
from
sake.
there. You
The
go.
standard. Yeah, you know what? I feel like, fully enough, every time that I mention on here that we should flog Forss, something good happens with him. Like the first time I said it, he just re-emerged from the shadows, and I think it was maybe when he came on for Emmanuel Latha against Preston. And then the second time I said it, he goes and scores against Stoke. So yeah, we should totally flog Marcus Forss. There you go, Marcus. There's your goal against Swansea. But it's good. I think I've never put Marcus Forss's footballing ability in doubt. It's mostly been his fitness, and that's a real shame. He's one of two players actually at Middlesbrough that, they're very talented players, but their fitness just isn't really there as frequently as we want them to. And Riley McGrew's the other one, but he's a very good striker of the ball, and also his movement is very good. Like yesterday, he made some fantastic runs, just trying to get in those spaces on the blind side of the defender from outside to in. Really good, really, really good movement. And it's not always picked up. Sometimes it was yesterday, sometimes it was against Stoke. But it's very good to see somebody that can give you that movement off the ball, that tries to get Boro in good areas centrally. So I've really enjoyed Marcus Forss's resurgence, because he is a good player and he could be a really good asset for us. I hope that he can maintain fitness, because that's the sticking point, isn't it? Can you be available? Because that is the best availability. And with Marcus Forss, it's just eluded him, unfortunately. But if he can stay fit from now to the end of the season, then I do trust Marcus Forss to get that goal tally up, and hopefully go into next season being a really good player on that right-hand side. So yeah, good to see that. And it was a good finish. It was a really good finish. The type of player that, admittedly, I've said on this podcast before, I don't usually like it, the cut inside and shoot, but I only don't like it because I find it to be quite ineffective a lot of the time. But I'm never going to complain when a ball lands in the back of the net. So yeah, that was good with his left foot too, and that's a very good trait for us to have somebody that can score on both feet. Very good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we need to say a different word apart from finish when we speak about Marcus Forss. And then just start talking about, say, strike. I don't know what other word, Tom, you can mention on that one, but I'm trying to think of them on the top of my head. But Tom, give me your thoughts and assessments of the game against Stoke. And on top of that as well, Dana alluded to it a little bit earlier around when they equalised, the game could have shifted. It was good character from Boro as well to really bring the game back in their favour. But was there any nervousness that you were feeling as well when they equalised?
Yeah, there absolutely was. And from what I was saying earlier, it was important to get that win to kind of start getting us back on the right track and kind of breed that winning mentality in the players again. But it was equally important for the supporters, because we've not had a lot to be positive about in the last 5 games at least, if not even longer. And there is always, or there has been, that feeling where if we were ahead and the other team gets an equaliser, or if we go down, that's it. We're almost kind of resigned to losing at that point. So the fact that we did concede, it was a worry at the time. But then the fact that we came out after half time, got 2 more, and win the game, it is a good thing for the supporters. I mean, even if it's just a one-off at the moment, because it does still show that mentality in the players is still there. We can still do it. It's just maybe we were just missing a little bit of, don't know, consistency, whatever you want to call it, in terms of our performances. We were missing something up until that point, but that should give us enough of a boost, as well as the Derby game, that we can carry that on, and hopefully we do.
Yeah, definitely. It really does play a part, that consistent run of games and winning football matches, because that will hopefully get us in the position where we want to be in. not going to mention it. But Finn Azaz obviously put us ahead, and then Tommy Conway really sealed off the win, Tom. And he was desperate all game. He missed the sitter, but he has been very clinical for us. It was a goal every 133 minutes after the Stoke game. It was great to see him get the goal at the end, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think especially after the Carnu-style miss earlier in the game from 2 yards out. It's really one where you would have expected him to finish. I mean, you'd expect anyone to finish that, but with how good a finisher that Tommy Conway is and how usually reliable he has been for us, you would have expected him to finish that earlier in the game. So the worry after that would have been, God, I hope his head doesn't drop, and I hope it's not a case that everyone sees 5 or 7 aside where someone will miss one, it'll get in their head, and they'll try and try harder, and it'll get further and further away from the goal. But
Have you done that, Tom?
I haven't, but I've played against many people who have, and Johnny's man-marked one of them, so Jonny knows exactly what I'm talking about. It is good to see that didn't affect him, though, and yeah, the goal, he took it really well as well. Like, there was nothing that Johansson could have done to save it, and it was just really good build-up play between him and Azaz to get into that position. So for Tommy Conway, getting the goal kind of continues on, continued on his goal scoring run, because he didn't score yesterday, but confidence can kind of remain fairly high for him. But also it might have done a little bit in terms of bringing Azaz back to form as well as scoring in that game. He's got a goal and an assist in that game that he can kind of take on to upcoming games.
Yeah, well, in data terms, Conway was never going to score yesterday, but he will score in the first half against Swansea. And hopefully, that fingers crossed, that actually happens. But I feel for one person that you've just mentioned, Tom, and that's Stan, because he just got strays for absolutely no reason there to a Stan. So I know he's listening, so I do apologise for that. He's going to be sat in his camera like, what the hell is going on here? Getting strays from Tom.
I didn't name anyone there, just you've named him.
Yeah, well, you've absolutely given me a ticking time bomb there, Danny Ayala. But we'll move on to Derby now, because Middlesbrough went into the game where they hadn't had that consecutive wins since November, and Boro have finally beaten a team they should have beaten. We should have beaten them earlier on in the season, and that was Steve Gibson's Derby County. Yes, I deliberately said Steve Gibson's Derby County. Then, before I went to it, of course, there was something more important happening outside the ground yesterday, and I just thought you'd have a minute or so what was going on.
Yeah, we were doing a bucket collection outside the Riverside yesterday. You'll have seen quite a few of us volunteers dotted around the ground in blue shirts. We were raising money in memory of Willie Madron, who unfortunately passed away from motor neuron disease in 2000. It's coming up to 25 years since he passed. Obviously, Boro legend. When we posted on socials, so many people saying how good of a player he was, how great of a gent he was, and also how underrated he was, and how he should have got more caps for England. My dad was saying it yesterday as well. And just a massive thank you to everybody that donated. I think we saw the Boro fans' generosity yesterday. We should hopefully know how much we raised on Monday, but it was a great day. The weather was very kind to us. The sun was out, and it was just good to see that generosity from Boro fans raising money for a really well-worthy cause, a cause that's of course close to my heart as well. And if anybody wasn't at the game yesterday and wasn't able to donate, there will be a Just Giving link in the description of this podcast as well, to hopefully raise some more funds online. So yeah, just another massive thank you to all the Boro fans that donated, and hopefully, yeah, we can raise as much money as we possibly can in memory of Willie Madron.
Good stuff. And then something even better happened, Tom, as well. Boro beat Derby. And what was your assessments of the game yesterday?
I thought we did all right. I thought we played quite well. I've seen a few people saying that we really didn't perform well yesterday, and I don't quite understand. I don't understand that viewpoint, because for me, it could have been a more a kind of generous scoreline than it was. Generous, the right word? It could have been a more one-sided scoreline. I remember one Derby shot that really seemed threatening, and it was within around the first 5-10 minutes. We got caught playing out from the back where it really should have been a clearance, but then Travers made a top save to the left-hand side. Other than that, don't really think Derby did anything. We were always kind of in control of that match, and we had more chances than just the one that we took. It did seem that Derby came with a plan to kind of stick everyone behind the ball and try and get a point out of the game. And yeah, that's about all I can say about them, because they really weren't good at all. And Red Faction was singing about Derby going down and stuff like that. I didn't realise before going into this game that they were bottom, but I can totally see why after that performance. But I think obviously you can only beat what's in front of you. We did quite well, and that should be another game where it's positives afterwards that we can take into the next game, and hopefully continue on that run.
Yeah, I'd be really concerned if I was a Derby fan, to be honest, in how they're playing at the moment, because in defensive shape, I thought they were fairly decent, to be honest. I thought they were set up really well, hard to break down, really difficult to play through. But going forward, they were a shambles, absolute shambles. I think with the previous manager, it was very direct. You knew how they were going to create chances. But with John Eustace at the moment, it's still really early for them to tell. But also, I don't think he has the players that he wants to play to get them up the pitch and scoring plenty of goals. But right now, I can't see it happening. I think they're going to go down, and I just don't. They're just a poor side. And well, they need to invest properly, I guess, because you're not going to stay up with Kmart Roof up top. But Dana, Boro, Dana, say that again. We went into the game, of course, with one change. Look, Ayling came in for George Edmondson following his injury. Boro, down to one fit centre back now, so he went off. How do you think Ayling did yesterday prior to his injury? Because he looked like he really fit into that role quite well.
Yeah, I think he did. I think it's no real surprise. I think me and you were talking about it at some point. It might have been off the pod about how later on in a player's career, it's probably best for them to move central, especially if you're a fullback. So I think that's maybe the kind of future position for Luke Ayling. We were told by Leeds fans when we signed him that his legs have gone and he's quite a weak link up against a direct one-on-one winger. So I think maybe we've seen there where Ayling could play going forward. He brought the ball out really well. He didn't, I was going to say he didn't look tested, but Derby were really pitful up front. So I don't think that it was necessarily it wasn't ever going to be a day where he was massively tested. And then, of course, he got injured. So there's the Middlesbrough curse that lives on. I still think, even though Ayling did well at centre-back, I really still think that we dropped the ball massively not bringing in a centre-back in January. It just smacks of, that'll do, that's fine. It's negligent, in my opinion. You're having to play Neto Borges now, left-sided centre-back. I think Edmondson will be out. Edmondson himself apparently said he'll be out for about 6 weeks. Carrick said 3 or 4. But it's we're in a situation now where we're having to play players in positions that they aren't their positions and they could do a job there, but why didn't we just bring in a centre-back? It just boggles my brain, to be honest. But that aside, Ayling did play well at centre-back, and I do think that his future is probably there rather than right-back, and that would probably suit both Boro and Ayling, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely does. When we spoke about it, the reason why he will look better is just you're not exposed to so much space on that right hand side. When you are more central, you've got someone next to you, helps limit things. Obviously, it's that ball in behind where you're a bit concerned, because that's where probably Boro lack a lot of pace with Dale Fry and with Ayling was there, and also with Edmondson as well, who I don't think is that quick to be fair either. So that can be a bit of a negative, where Boro's pace at the back, but it's also about positioning. I thought Ayling was really good there, and he was able to bring the ball out and try and make things happen for Boro when it was becoming quite difficult. And you noticed it during the game and definitely in the post-match as well around Dale Fry standing on a ball. Now, I'll probably come on to this now, to be honest, because I think it's worth mentioning why Dale Fry would stand on a ball. And to remind people of like the first minute in the game, there was a moment where you would see all the Derby players stay in a position where they were happy to be in a bit of a mid-block, press and trigger as soon as either Dicey got the ball or Ailey got the ball. It was never Dale Fry, but the reason why teams do this, and this was actually constructed for Boro, is because they want to try and get in to a position on the pitch where it's the space between the midfield and the defence, and that's a space where Finn Azaz and Morgan Whittaker do so well in. And when you do try and play through, it can be quite difficult at times because when teams really try and compress themselves together, you do limit the space, then you find Boro can potentially horseshoe it. But it really is a trigger, and Middlesbrough will try and get that ball to Finn Azaz, but it's on the likes of Morris and Hackney to create that movement. So if you do play it to Morris, you can play it through to Hackney, who is free, and then you play it through to Finn Azaz, and Boro will get them on like a, well, when I speak to analysts, it's like an artificial transition. Now, I'll put quotations there because people will roll their eyes and go, Jonny, that is just too football woke nonsense. But what I'm saying is that Middlesbrough will try and get the team to run backwards and get themselves in a really good position. But that's why Boro have done it. It can cause frustrations because you sat there going, well, nothing's happening, but Dale Fry is waiting for that movement from the attacking players. You're seeing it with Force in that first half. Would try and running behind. You would see Whittaker maybe come a bit more central, and then you would see Azaz come in that little box midfield as well. Just try and find that little gap. But it's all about, for me, in those moments, it's all about Morris and Hackney. How can they play a 1-2 to get Boro out of that and get its opposition team running backwards towards their own goal? But I could probably do a full video on that, and there's so much that you could probably dissect, but really top line, I think that's why Middlesbrough were doing things, and that's why we've seen that type of play. And we did it against Stoke as well, where you'd see that 3-2 in like a back five pivot, really, with the three centre-backs and Morris and Hackney all really close together, and a gap between the midfielders and attackers, just so you're able to create that space to give Azaz that opportunity, and then get Boro playing and get teams facing over goal. But in assessment, guys, overall, do you think that Boro have turned a corner at all? Do you think that we're in a much better place? Or do you think that we've just played two poor sides and we should have won anyway and it's on to the next thing?
I mean, I feel like we should have won both anyway, based on the strength of our squad compared to the squads we've just played. After Tuesday night, I was looking at it thinking, God, Stoke were poor. Like, we're going to do well to find a worse team than them this season. And then Derby stepped up yesterday and possibly, dropped the worst I've seen since, Rotherham at home last season. With Derby as well, I don't know what was going on. I mean, I need to mention this because I found it quite funny yesterday. Their goalkeeper just looked so edgy. Like,
oh my God, he was terrible. His distribution was awful.
His distribution was terrible because he kept putting it out for throw-ins. There was one point in the first half where there was like a looping header going towards him. And you just think for most goalkeepers, right, you go and collect that. He dived out to the side and like palmed it out for a throw-in or something. And the only time I've seen that is in like FIFA compilation videos where they're like, oh, this game's so unrealistic. It looked like the goalkeeper lagged or like, had a bit of a glitch or something, because why would you do that? So yeah, that's possibly another reason why Derby are going to go down, because really did not rate him at all yesterday. Like I said earlier, you can only beat what's in front of you. We did play two fairly poor teams, but we've got 6 points on the board. Maybe a bit of a reminder for the players how good we can be, or a reminder of what it's like to win. And like I said, we've got some winnable games coming up, so it might have been two fixtures that just dropped exactly where we need them in the schedule, and hopefully we can kick on from here now.
I was thinking, because I do disagree with your point earlier on in the show, Tom, about Boro's confidence. I think we were a side that did lack confidence. But if you're a side that are lacking that, the best opposition for you is another team that are also lacking confidence. And I think we that Stoke fixture fell at the exact time, at the right time for Boro. And time will tell really on whether this means that Boro are good or whether it just means we played some really poor opposition. But yeah, that's the thing for me. It's undetermined at the moment. I'm not actually sure definitively whether Boro are good or whether it was just fortuitous that we played two poor teams. But still, what I said after the Stoke part of the show, I was just happy to see Boro win and play well, because it's something that I've mentioned a few times in this podcast that we've only played well like once in like 20 minutes this season against West Brom and 20 minutes against this year against West Brom and 20 minutes against Sunderland. So I'm happy that we played well in a game and won it, because to be honest, we played well in other games and lost. And then that Derby game yesterday, that's the exact type of game that trips us up, that we usually struggle to find a way in. And we found a way, and it was enough. So, yeah, time will tell really on what this means for Boro and how we're looking with these two fixtures won.
Yeah, and to round that off, it takes a few wins to pretty much cement your playoff spot this season. The standard around us and us ourselves has been poor this season, and you've seen with the likes of Coventry, who've went on that run of 8 wins in 9, got themselves into 5th and look quite comfortable there. Boro can do the same thing in these run of fixtures, and I think it's so important that we really do get ourselves in a good run of form at the moment, because it will mean a lot come the end of the season if we get into the playoffs. A side who is always in a really good run of form are the most likely to go up in that playoff mayhem of games. But to round off those 2 games, Boro had to beat those sides, and we have. Yes, we've played well, but we should have beat them, and we should have been talking about back-to-back wins. And I'm glad that we are, because if we weren't, I would have probably dug my head in the sand and never returned to the podcast ever again. If to be honest, it is that bad
You
at
are
that
an
point.
ostrich.
I am an ostrich, yes. And,
Nigel Pearson moment.
yeah. Yeah, one of those. It's but yeah, round off, really happy. But let's move on. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it is the praise and place. Ah, yes, the praise and place. The only place where to give praise to a player, a coach and staff member, Tom's brand new haircut, Dana's jumper, and my volley on pro clubs last night, because that deserves a lot of praise. Now, I wish I had the video, because I would have showed it on YouTube, but I haven't. So I'm just going to say it was class. So who wants to go first? Tom, would you like to go first? Who's in your praise and place this week?
Yeah, sure. I think for performances over the last couple of games, I want to mention Neto Borges. I think, I mean, it might extend even a little bit further to the Bristol City game as well, but I think he's really coming into his own in that left back spot. Maybe bringing in Ryan Giles as competition was exactly what he needed to kind of step up his performance levels. But I do think he's done really well in the last few games. Dale Fry yesterday, I think, was absolutely imperious at centre back. Like, won absolutely everything. As I said earlier, doing that thing where he was just kind of putting his studs on the ball. I've not seen any of our other centre backs do that this season, but he seems to be taking that role quite well, and you know, it's understanding it, and it seems to be working. So that for Dale Fry. Mark Travers, I think, has made some really good saves over the last couple of games. And then from an attacking standpoint, Azaz for his contributions over the last couple of games. Morgan Whittaker, I think, is starting to pick up and show what he can kind of offer this team now. And Tommy Conway as well for his goal and never give up attitude, although that might be slightly tainted after what John Cena's just done. But never give up attitude from Tommy Conway. I think, you know, in terms of his determination to get on the score sheet on Tuesday, and he just always seems to be given 100%. So, quite a lot for my prison place this week, but we are covering 2 games. So.
You put half the bloody team in there. You're making up for lost time. Just shot the whole coaching contingent in as well, the whole population of Middlesbrough.
I chose 3 for each game, but population of Middlesbrough as well. Everyone who went down to Stoke.
Honestly, this podcast today, based on a reference, WWE reference, I don't know where I'm going to go next, to be honest. Dana, who's in your present place this week?
I'm going to mention someone that Tom actually didn't there, and I'm going to say Hayden Hackney, because I think in the Stoke game, he showed exactly why he is a key component to Michael Carrick's team, because his drives from midfield were pivotal to particularly the goal that got us in front, Finn Azaz's goal to make it 2-1. And you can see after that, if you watch the highlights back, Hayden Hackney just has this release of emotion where I think he might fist pump the ground, actually, the grass. It was just this, I don't know, unbridled joy there from him in that moment. And I thought his performance on Stoke was, again, much like how the team performance as a whole was a reminder that this football team can still deliver good. Hayden Hackney's performance was a reminder that he is still a good player. He's been levelled with the overrated tag quite a lot this season, which I'm not going to tell people that's right or that's wrong. That's their opinion. I personally don't agree with it. I do think that he has had difficult parts of this season where he's maybe fallen below the high standards that he set, but I think he was back on that standard on Tuesday night against Stoke. Thought he was very good. And I just want to praise the post-match scenes yesterday, because so many times we've seen teams come at the Riverside and they've been all jolly and celebratory with their away fans, and I've had to look to my left-hand side to see all those celebrations, and I've been sick to my back teeth of it. But seeing it for us, that our players could go around and do basically a lap of the pitch, actually, all together. The Southgate salute, as we're calling it, Bergzorg, Borges, Giles gave it a go. Yeah, it was brilliant. And Bergzorg actually went over to the South Stand Red Faction, and I think did he have the megaphone? I'm not sure. He might not have had the megaphone, but they were singing his chant, and he was like clapping along with it and jumping up and down with it. So yeah, it was good. Those moments, I think, are very valuable, actually, especially after a losing run, and especially after our home form this season not being particularly good. The connection between the fans and the players of the fans is crucial, and I was really, really, really happy to see that yesterday after the game.
Yeah, that connection's vital, isn't it? When you do see the players come round, and regardless of the result, I think appreciate and try and get themselves involved with the crowd and trying to do more. That builds the connection. I think it gives the team more leeway and the ability to take more risks because fans are more appreciative. I think sometimes when you don't do that, you don't have that connection, the smallest things can really annoy people. So I think it's massively important now to build that connection from a Boro player standpoint and the fans as well. And why wouldn't you? They are there for a reason. They pay their hard-earned money to follow you. Got to show that appreciation all the time, regardless of the result. And I think it's important that we continue to do that as well. And on my present place, I think your Borges, I think he was brilliant over the last couple of games. He's really improved his performances since Giles came in. And to play centre-half as well, I think he could adapt there quite comfortably just based on how he currently plays and how he's played at previous clubs where he's like to make those inverted runs and drive into midfield. It makes a lot of sense for him to probably move into that position and be comfortable there. Now, naturally, he's not going to be a centre-back, but I think that is a position that he can still do quite well in if we need him to be in there. And my second one was actually Finn Azaz as well. I think just the output that he's showing for Boro is fantastic. He's done it at Plymouth, like I mentioned. He's done it here. And to get the numbers that he's doing is a really difficult thing to do in this division. And yes, he can be a player that might go through streaks of goals and assists, but that's probably the reason why he's in this division and doesn't do it consistently. But Boro haven't done that consistently. This is why we're a second division team. But yeah, I think those two players of Neto Borges, Finn Azaz, for me, real key standouts from the week. Mark Travers has been an improvement, of course, in goal. But yeah, those two, fantastic. And well done to Michael Carrick and the coaching staff as well for turning it around slowly but surely. But it's nothing yet. They've still got a long way to go, and they've still got that target of, I'm not saying the word, to really start to get in that position and hopefully get Boro in a really good position for next year. But let's move on. Let's go to trivia now. My favorite part of the show. So every week when I'm on this podcast, I will give people a trivia question. And this week, guys, get your pen and paper or phone or device or wherever you are and listen to this podcast. Get your thought at the ready. Because here is my question this week. I'm a footballer who has played for both Boro and Swansea. In fact, I left Boro for Swansea. I've also played for another championship team who play in blue and white, and I have 50 championship goals to my name. Who am I? So, your timer starts now. Time is up, party crew. Time is up. Who is in your who's
in your praising place?
Who is in your praising place board? You can tell my brain has just been so mushy this week. But then I'll let you go first. Who's on the whiteboard?
Marvin Emnes. I was thinking, which championship team plays in blue and white? And the only team I could think of was Blackburn. And I remember Marvin Emnes, of course, being at Middlesbrough, but also being at Swansea. And he was at Blackburn too. Unless I've completely made that up and he wasn't at Blackburn, but I'm pretty sure that he was. So I've just got Marvin Emnes.
No, that was correct. Marvin Emnes has played for Swansea, he has played for Blackburn, but it's not the answer I'm looking for, and it's not the person who has scored all 50 goals in the championship. So, Tom, who is in?
I'm out of here.
Well, Marvin Emnes got the 7th place in my praising place this week for his contribution to Boro. But my other guess that I was going to go for before I thought Marvin Emnes was Danny Graham.
Danny Graham. I thought he joined Watford from Boro. He was my first thought, but I thought he joined Watford from Boro.
So, the answer, who I've actually got, and it wasn't Danny Graham, unfortunately, is Leroy Later. And he did leave Middlesbrough for
Reading.
Swansea. Yeah, and played for Reading. So,
oh, piss off. I thought you meant current championship team. Oh, yeah.
Well,
to be honest, if Reading was still in the league, I'd have thought Blackburn, Reading. That's a good one this week, Jonny. Well done. You caught me out.
He also played for Birmingham, played for Bristol City, played for Barnsley, and has played for about 30 clubs since. And is still apparently playing at the moment, later at 40 years of age. So there you go. But Marvin Emnes actually only scored 50 goals in his entire career, including Rotterdam and Boro and Blackburn and Swansea. So, clinical Emnes. Remember Project Emnes? What the hell was that about? Anyway, let's move on to Swansea now, because Boro play against Alan Sheehan's Swans after Luke Williams' sacking. Remember when he was tipped for the West Brom job, and then he said, well, this is only the starter, and then proceeded to lose about 6 or 7 games on the trot. But they will also play against Lewis O'Brien, who is on loan there. He's been on loan everywhere, Lewis O'Brien, since he joined Nottingham Forest. But they are currently 16th in the Championship, but they do play midweek against Preston. And guys, I'm here just to ask for your predictions for the game, because it can be a bit of a difficult one. But Tom, what's the scores on the doors? What are you going to go for?
I get the impression they're not in a good place right now, so I'm going to go 1-0 Boro. I think it might end up being a fairly boring game, but yeah, I'm going with us to get the win.
A win for Tom, and then Dynamo. What are you going to go for?
You know what? I'll go 2-0 Boro, and I'm glad that Gavin Ward refereed us yesterday, and isn't the referee, cannot be the referee for the Swansea game, otherwise that would unleash the sequel of Tom's post-Swansea rant from a few seasons ago, which was still probably my highlight podcast moment since we've been doing this show.
I can't even remember what I said. Like, it gets brought up that much, but I'm just like, I can't even remember it now. There's been that many things happen since.
It was like something on the lines of you should start doing a job in the dark. Or
Yeah, it should work in the dark.
Yeah, I mean,
it was so good.
Any thoughts for his performance yesterday, Tom? Any words of wisdom? Anything to mention?
I thought you had a good game yesterday.
Hey, nature is healed.
Can't really complain about much, to be honest.
Fair enough. I'll take that, and I think I'll round us off. I think that we will hopefully win 2-1, and we'll have 3 wins on the spin, and the normality be restored to the Galaxy. But guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. And to listen to the viewers, don't forget to subscribe to the Boro Breakdown channel. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and this video a thumbs up. That helps us get charted, found, and all that kind of fun stuff. But for right now, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod. Up the Boro.